What is up, Level Up Nation, and welcome to the Thursday, May 20th edition of LvLUp Live, your home for gaming and esports news, brought to you by OTN Media. My name is Fiasco. You can call me Jon, and that, my family and friends and brothers and sisters from another mother, is the king of the courtside. You can call him Joey, though. What's up, buddy? I feel like you had to out me like that. That was not cool. Yes. It is, yeah. It's the Colorado Avalanche third jersey. I ordered it 3 months ago, and it took 3 months to get here. From the team store in Colorado. Not from like eBay in China or anything. Took forever to get here, but I'm super excited. I got it just in time for the playoffs. Figured might as well rock it. The Avalanche are up 2-0 in their series against the Blues, which has nothing to do with esports. Yeah, I figure I'd rock it. It feels there is. You're 100% right there. But other than that, it's all good. It's all good. It feels good, and I'm glad you noticed, Joey. Thank you.
Of course, that's what I'm here for.
Yes. All right, nation. For more fashion takes from Joey, make sure to follow him on Twitter at Courtside King. And then myself at Fiasco. If you want, you're already watching the show, you might as well. And speaking of the show, if you're not already following the show on social media, I hate to break it to you, but you're doing it wrong. So make sure you follow LvLUp Live on Twitter and Facebook at LvLUp Live. And also your favorite hosts or your least favorite hosts. I don't know. I'm not going to assume if you like us or not, but I figure if you're listening to us and watching us, you have to somewhat like us. But nation, did you know there's a podcast version of the show? Yeah, for any reason, if you can't join us here live on Twitch, which by far might be one of the best places to catch a show for all the shenanigans, all the hot takes, and all the cool little videos that we add into the podcast later on down the road. Yeah, you should definitely be watching on Twitch, but if you choose not to, or if you want to listen to it later on down the road, let's say you're in your car, you're on a metro train, you're commuting somewhere, maybe you're on an airplane for 4.5 hours flying coast to coast, you can listen to us on the podcast version as well. LvLUp Podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And if you're going to listen to the podcast version, please do leave us a review, as reviews do go a long way. Not only helping grow the community, but giving us that feedback that we need to make the show what you, our listeners and viewers, want. So please do leave us reviews. All right, Joey, it is Thursday. Happy Friday Eve, by the way. It feels like it's been a while since we've done one of these shows. We've been incredibly busy. But not in a bad way. It's been absolutely fantastic. We've been all over the Mid-Atlantic, it feels like, in the past week, calling a whole bunch of really awesome esport tournaments and leagues and playoffs. It's been absolutely fantastic. But here we are back home now for LvLUp Live. So what are we talking about today?
Guys, so like Jon said, it's been a little while since we recorded. I believe our last episode was not this past Monday, but the Monday before this last Monday. So it's been a minute. We've kind of jumped all the way back to last Thursday, pulling news from back then. So we're going to give you about a week's worth of news here. We're going to be a little bit on the longer side, but we did cut out, I think I cut out about 50 to 60 topics. So it's not going to be a 4-hour show. It's going to be much closer to the normal time, a little bit longer, but not anything super, super crazy. Where can you get all the stuff we cut out? The best place is the social media that Jon mentioned earlier. We can post those in chat as well. The other good place, and it'll be in the notes too for those listening on the podcast. The other great place is Discord, and we can post that in chat as well. Our Discord server in the gaming discussion channel has a lot of different things we're not going to cover tonight, but a lot of kind of hot topics being discussed right now in gaming and esports.
All right, Joey.
Okay, so what are we talking about, Jon? Let's just hit on a little bit of that. So mid-season roster moves, we're going to talk about that for League of Legends. We're going to touch on some industry acquisitions as well as some different, let's call them partnerships working on here and there. The sleeping giant of Tencent is back in the news, making some pretty interesting moves. We have Nintendo's Amiibos, with a little bit of a controversy coming out with one of them. Warner Brother Games, because AT&T is selling off Warner Brother. What does that mean for the gaming department? What does that mean for those 11 studios? We're going to dive a little bit into that. We're going to talk Overwatch, who just hit on their PvP stream, as far as what we can look forward to for Overwatch 2, or what some players may not be looking forward to. We'll dive into all those perspectives and much more on today's episode.
Joey, you know that gif of that dog-like creature at the table with fire all around him saying, oh, this is fine? I feel like that's the Overwatch community after today's stream. So I'm very excited to talk about that topic later on in the show. But Joey, before we can even do that, I don't want to jump ahead of myself here. There is something very important we have to talk about. It's something very near and dear to both you and myself. And of course, that is the drink of choice segment. I tried to build that up. I don't think I did a really good job there, Joey.
I knew that was coming.
So Joey, our beverage to aid us through this episode, please.
Oh, I didn't pull up my description. So I'm back at Aslan Brewery.
Shocker.
Beer company, rather.
Are you sponsored
This is
yet?
the Brewer Who Laughs. It's going to be a double Indian Pale Ale, 8.5% alcohol. Cool label. It's a little bit of like, I can't see my camera right now, but it's like a kind of a comic book look to it. Did you see that on camera? I can't even tell.
Yeah,
I did.
I did.
How did it look?
It looked like a can wrapped in a comic book. It was
Perfect. And I'm glad you bought us time because I'm going to try to pull up the description here. Yep, nope, not going to have any luck. But yeah, it's great. I've had it a couple times. I got a pack recently when we were there. So this is number 3 of the pack and enjoying it so far.
Okay, so I do have to ask the question, are you sponsored by them yet? And if not,
I am
why
not
are you
yet.
slacking?
But Aslan, if you'd like to, you can hit us up at LvLUp Live on Twitter.
Oh my gosh. What an absolute shill and a half. Joey, my stomach is actually quite upset today, so I'm actually going to take it a little easy. I'm just breaking out the Coke Zero. Have not been feeling the best in the tummy region, so I'm going to go ahead and give the stomach and the good old liver a break prior to this weekend's festivities, and hopefully by tomorrow I'm feeling a little bit better. Joey, we have our beverages. We have our topics. Oh, it's a long one. I'm so ready for it. Joey, let's get right into gaming and esports news. Let's go.
Absolutely. Diving in with League of Legends, we're going to look at the LEC first. Excel Esports of the LEC have decided to make some roster changes, John. One of them being a rookie player, one of them being a support player, both being replaced for the upcoming summer split. In mid lane, you have Chekolad, the rookie. Very promising rookie. I believe he won EU Masters prior to moving up this past spring. Really fantastic player, strong mechanical player. They've decided to move on from him. A veteran of the League of Legends scene became available in Nuke Duck. He's known for having a giant champion pool. Some call it a champion ocean even because it's that big. He plays a ton of different heroes and champions and is really able to fit them into many different compositions. The biggest issue with him is he's never really I'm going to say excelled on stage, which is funny because he's joining Excel. I feel like he's always one of those players that's always talked about as a top 3 mid laner, but he never really meets those expectations. He will be the new mid lane replacing the rookie of Chekolad. And then over in support, you have Denik, who is a rookie on Misfits. Played recently, I believe it was last year in the LEC. Now moving over to Excel to replace the veteran in Torre. Overall, John, I'm kind of mixed on these moves. You kind of are replacing a promising rookie mid laner and a veteran support with a older veteran mid laner and now a bit of a promising support. I kind of would like to see them go with both rookies, but I kind of feel wanting to have that veteran presence as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. As much as I like Nuke Duck, this is purely a move for veteran leadership on this team. Because if you're going to sit here and tell me that Nuke Duck is going to be the player to help lead your team to victory, I'm going to tell you you're absolutely crazy. You want to talk about one of the more streaky mid laners to have ever played the game on stage? It's Nuke Duck. Yeah, he may have 3-4 weeks where he absolutely pops off and he puts up numbers that are some of the best in the West. But then he goes on a 4, 5, 6 week skid of like, oh, this dude is so bad he may not even make it in LCS. And there's your one LCS diss for the day, Joey. It has to be a veteran leadership move. Like I just don't see why you would make this switch to a veteran mid laner when really you should be looking, like you said, at rookies, continuing with that rookie mid laner, letting them grow, get that experience. Nothing can replicate being on the big stage in the LEC, whether it's on stream or whether it's in person. Nothing can set someone up for that experience other than building that experience. Bringing Nuke Duck in here, playing with a bunch of rookies, yeah, he may be able to give insights here and there, but let's be real here. Nuke Duck is going to be just as frustrated as everyone else is because they're not going to be playing to his, quote, veteran leadership style. Now, again, I agree with you, Joe. I think it's just purely a veteran leadership move here, but I would preferably have liked to see them stick with a rookie here in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing here for me. I get the veteran presence. I get Nuke Duck coming in. I think Nuke Duck is willing to make sacrifices at this point in his career as well. It doesn't look like he's ever going to become that star player. He's getting toward the end of his career. Maybe he even looks towards coaching. My biggest issue here is that they're replacing a very promising rookie. Chocolat being one of those top real contenders in the mid lane, coming from EU, a region known for creating these amazing mid lane talent. For me, now you're replacing him and you're not even keeping him on the roster. Like, I think it's one thing if you say, hey, Chocolat, we're going to keep you on the bench. We're going to allow you to learn under Nuke Duck. We're going to allow you to continue get to mesh yourself within this new team. And that's fine. But now to let him go completely, I think you're going to have to see another team pick this kid up. He's so talented, and I would hate to see him only get one split on stage, a decent split on stage, and then get bumped back to something like EU Masters. I feel like that's just not fair to him as a player, and I also feel like it's Excel, I'm going to say, making questionable choices toward their future as well. Another move coming in here is Evil Geniuses over in the LCS. They have parted ways with ADC Deathly. Unfortunately, I did not put the name of the player who's replacing him, but it is a player actually not even from their academy team, but from their, I can't even think of what it's called, the thing under academy, where they continue to work up players. I can't think. We'll call it the Academy of the Academy. Very new player to the scene, someone who's got a little bit more newer to League of Legends, but extremely talented. I don't know if you can pull up the name for me, or I can try to pull it up here in a second. It's something basic too, and I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, so Evil Geniuses, they're moving on from Deathly, talented young ADC player. I expect him to be picked up somewhere. Maybe he's on Academy for a little while. He'll eventually make his way back to the LCS, in my opinion. Evil Geniuses is one of those teams and organizations that wants to make a move now. They want to find a way to foster this young talent. Like, they have Zyzel on their team. They have Svenskeren, who's a veteran. You have a few young players here and there, as well as some veteran talent mixed in, and they're trying to be a team that continues to build up that young talent, but also is available to compete now and have that veteran leadership. So it's a nice mix of the two. Again, I think definitely fit that in a sense as far as those young promising players, but now finding a guy even younger, bringing him up and potentially making him a foundation, kind of like a building block for this franchise toward the future, could end up being a really strong move for EG if it works out.
Yeah, totally. I 100% agree. For EG, parting ways with Deathly, you're gonna. I mean, rebuilding is definitely going to be something that every team's gonna have to go through sooner or later. It's unfortunate for Deathly, but yeah, we'll see what Evil Geniuses does in the future. And I think you froze there a little bit.
Did I?
Oh, you're back now.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay. It is Danny. Is the AD carry's new name?
Danny.
Yeah, so I told you it was something basic. It was something pretty easy to remember. So Danny is coming up.
Basic.
Yeah, Danny is basic. Hopefully his skills and mechanics are not, but his name, his in-game summoner name, definitely is, at least here on paper. So we'll see how he replaces Deathly as he makes his way into that LCS starting roster. Over a little bit away from, well, no, it's actually still with League of Legends, rather. This is NRG. They're not in the LCS anymore. They have made that move out of League of Legends. They jumped around a little bit in some contender scenes here and there. But now they're making a jump all the way from North America to Asia, not only in League of Legends, but as a brand in general. So NRG is expanding their team holdings into Asia with the acquisition of storied Vietnamese franchise GAM Esports. Most of you don't know who a GAM is. I'll help you guys. Gigabyte Marines, that team that kept upsetting people a couple years ago at Worlds. They've also had some good MSI performances. This is them. GAM is Gigabyte Marines. So overall, I think this is a good move. And I think it's a really smart move by NRG as well. We've seen them try to compete in the LCS. They had a few good splits here and there, but in the end, it cost them a lot of money. They spent a lot on players, and in the end, it didn't really work out for them. So they eventually dropped out of the scene. They want to be in League of Legends, though. League of Legends being one of the biggest esports scenes out there, one of the most successful scenes out there. How can they get involved into it? Well, NRG said, hey, let's look at investing somewhere else. And doing this is so smart, John, because assuming COVID is a little bit easier to get around for Vietnamese travel when it comes to later in the year, because it was an issue here for MSI, GAM has a very, very good chance of making it to Worlds. So now this is NRG paying a lot less than they would for something like an LCS or LEC spot, or even an LCK or LPL spot. They're going to pay for something in the Vietnamese league, a much smaller league, but a league that almost always sends a team to Worlds. So they could have that NRG branding at Worlds, spending a lot less to get it.
Yeah, this has that same feeling that we see in the Dota community, where big organizations will come in and purchase the roster of teams that have qualified for the international. It kind of has that same feeling here. Like, it's a smart move by NRG. Like, don't get me wrong. They want to get back into League of Legends. This is a very inexpensive way of doing it. And you're acquiring probably the most recognized Southeastern team in League of Legends in GAM Esports, GAM Esports, aka Gigabyte Marines. I feel like, for the league crazy people out there that like pay super attention to league all around the world, they're looking at this and go, hey, this is a really, really good deal. Kudos to the front office at NRG. It's a very, very, very smart move here. And you position yourself, like you were saying, Joey, in a very, very good spot to make it to Worlds, which gets that international brand exposure that NRG definitely wants.
Absolutely. So a big step there for Energy, not only in League of Legends, but also their brand exposure over there in Asia. So great move all around for them. We'll see how it pans out if Gigabyte Marines or GAM Esports or Energy Esports, whatever they end up being called, does find their way to Worlds once again. Over to some partnerships and investments, John. Raise a glass to this one. This is to the Overwatch League and the Call of Duty League. They have opened up betting and liquor as new sponsorship categories. And so far, we've already seen one jump out. That is the London Royal Ravens. They jumped on that train quickly, announcing Midnight, a London-based betting operator, as a new sponsor of their particular organization or club or team, whatever you want to call them. It does differ a little bit with Call of Duty and Overwatch League compared to some of the other esport titles out there and how that naming breaks down. But in the end, liquor sponsors, betting sponsors, it's now all coming. This is not something necessarily new for esports. I believe it's been around in FIFA for a while. I know we've seen it in CSGO before. So it is a little bit different for Activision-based esport games. But overall, I think it's a big win. It's a way for more organizations and teams to find ways to connect with different sponsors. One of the biggest ways of esports orgs making money is through sponsorships. People that sponsor your team, whether they're on jerseys, whether their assets are on your stream, whatever it ends up being, that's one of the biggest incomes and revenue sources for these esport organizations. This is another way of opening it up. Now, I think to you, John, the biggest question here is when we look at esports, we tend to look at let's say a younger audience, more or less. It's typically to teens, young adults. Now you're adding in betting and liquor, and a lot of these teens and adults, or I guess the adults can, but the teens cannot buy liquor necessarily, at least in the United States. And when you look at betting, most places you have to be about 18 to bet as well. So that is one thing to look at with the general demographic of the viewership. These sponsorships don't necessarily line up in that sense.
You're right. They don't. And they don't match up with the values that a lot of these companies have either. Prime example, I know they're not listed here, but, take League of Legends, for example, Graves and his cigar. That was something that was a big deal because people said, oh, that promoted tobacco. When the NBA 2K League came out and they were really pressing forward like their alcohol partnerships, WizDG, everything on their stream is brought to you by Bud Light. While Joey, you and I, who are of age, we don't really think twice about it. Like growing up watching traditional sports, alcohol and more in recent years, gambling companies have really been the norm in traditional sports. Esports really kind of that next generation of entertainment, if you will, to open the doors to that. And here's my thing. I understand the argument if people are going to say, hey, these games are geared towards kids. And yes, you are correct. But Overwatch League, Call of Duty League are multi-million-dollar franchise spots. It is a business, and business likes to see partnerships and revenue and, just ways that everyone can increase exposure. I hate to say it, but the people who are kind of against alcohol and gambling and being in like sponsors in esports, you got to get with the times. I'm sorry. Like, I totally understand where you're coming from. If you're a parent and you're listening to this, you're saying, I don't want little Timmy to be exposed to Bud Light. I'm not going to go there. I would say, yes, you have a great argument. And that's where you as a parent come in to ensure they understand that you have to be 21 in the United States of America to drink. That's your job as a parent. Don't leave it to the Overwatch League and Call of Duty League because they're not there to teach your kid. That's your job as a parent. I like it. I think the move is smart. It's definitely going to bring money in. The whole thing with liquor I find is actually fascinating because liquor is probably one of the newer types of alcohol coming into sponsorship. Major League Soccer even had an issue with hard liquor sponsors. It was only beer. Like you see Heineken in the MLS and the EMLS like absolute crazy. But when it came to liquor, it was maybe a year or two ago that the MLS actually rewrote their sponsorship rules to allow liquor to be a sponsor. NHL has been a sponsor for, I think, going on 7 years now. liquor is still kind of new. So I actually really applaud Overwatch League and Call of Duty and Blizzard Activision for kind of being willing to let liquor become a sponsor, because just of the connotation that comes with liquor. I feel like it's easier to say, okay, we have a beer sponsorship than it is to say, oh, that First Blood is brought to you by Jägermeister. Don't hide in my jungle, kind of thing, because Jägermeister translates to hunt you I knew. But yes, it's for all the German listeners out there, they totally got that one. But yeah, I like it, but at the same time, I can see why parents would have an issue with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are definitely older people that are above the age or the legal drinking age here in the United States, as well as the betting age here throughout the world. And I think that's one thing here. Like, we're talking about the teen audience, which is definitely a big portion of the pie here, but there's also a number of other people outside of that. And on top of that, it's not saying, hey, kids, go out there and grab a drink. It's purely saying this is also sponsored by whoever, insert whatever. So I think that's the biggest thing. And it comes down to like what you said, John. Parents, maybe even teams explaining like, hey, if you're above age, or maybe throwing in that extra asterisk here and there with these sponsorships, that's perfectly fine in my opinion. But it's a great way for orgs to get more money. And it's a way to do it without it any, I mean, it's not actually a bad inherent thing here. It's not saying anything like, hey, kids, you have to go out there and drink alcohol because your team is sponsored by it. It's purely saying like, hey, this is another way for us to get revenue. It's another way for these liquor companies and betting companies to get their name out there. Maybe that kid that's 17 and eventually turns 18 decides he wants to be a gambler, but he does a very good, clean job of it. I don't know. Overall, it's more money being brought into the scene, and I think people will be responsible enough with it.
I think gambling might be the part where everyone is a loser in this case, because gambling has been introduced in game for over 10 plus years now. You know, when you talk about loot crates, you talk about loot boxes. When you talk about, you know, paying real life money for in-game currency to buy more loot boxes. Again, we're talking to the king of microtransactions here. It is gambling. It is gambling in its purest form, because you are spending real life money for a chance to win something. For a chance to win something in game. So that I don't think should really bother anyone, because that's something we've been dealing with. Again, I understand the argument why we should care about it, and I totally think that argument is valid. And last point on the whole alcohol sponsorships, let's also remember that when teams do giveaways, when these esports organizations do giveaways, if it's sponsored by an alcohol sponsorship, like if it's an alcoholic sponsorship, there's age limitations on those giveaways. You have to be 18 years of age if it's sponsored by a tobacco product, which I don't think tobacco is even involved in esports. And then when it comes to alcohol, you have to be 21 years of age to qualify for those giveaways if it's sponsored. Even if alcohol's not involved, if this is like, oh, this is our weekly free hack giveaway presented by Bud Light, for example, usually 99.9% of the time there's a stipulation you have to be 21 years of age or older to enter in that competition. If you're under that age and you find out, then obviously you're disqualified and you forfeit that product. So there are restrictions in place to ensure the exposure is minimized to those under the legal age.
So TLDR, guys, this has been going on for sports for a while now. It should be fine translating it over to esports. On top of that, as John said earlier, it's kind of the parents' job to come in here and explain these things to the children watching, whether they're teens, whether they're almost young adults. Regardless of age, these things will come into play. Overall, it's a good way to bring more money into the scene and a good way to help support the organizations as well as to pay those players' payroll. All right, John, these next couple of things, I think we're just going to roll through a few of these a little bit quicker to catch up on some time here. EA is opening a new studio in the Seattle area, headlined by former Monolith Productions Vice President Kevin Stevens, most known for his work on franchises like Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. The studio will focus on open-world action-adventure games. I think the biggest thing for me here is we've seen PlayStation's success with open-world action-adventure games. That's really how PlayStation has sold a number of their consoles, outside of the fact that they've been around for so long and they built up a huge audience as well. But when you look at the hits, you look at the titles that are winning Game of the Year, a lot of them are stuff like Sony's action-adventure games. More people are trying to dive into that. We've seen Ubisoft make more moves into that to expand really upon Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs Legion and a few of these other franchises. You're going to see that more and more as we go. EA being another one of those that is already involved here and there, but they're continuing to expand into that area. I think it's a good move overall, John. I think opening studios as long as you give them the support they need and don't really force them onto using specific engines like Frostbite or using some other things like meeting these set deadlines that are hard deadlines, and then you release products like we saw with Cyberpunk where it wasn't quite ready for that full release. I think that's my biggest thing here. I'm hoping EA approaches this similar to what we've seen with Respawn Entertainment, where they give some of that freedom away.
All this EA hate, it's almost like it's justified. No, I totally agree. I think it's great opening a new studio in the Seattle area. I'm excited to see what it will do. But yeah, I think forcing studios to use your engine may or may not be the best thing. Frostbite's got a lot of issues. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, EA is a little bit of a prideful company. Who I don't see them allowing them to use like Unreal Engine or something yet. But who knows? They might have a change of heart. But yeah, I have a feeling that they probably will force them to use something like Frostbite.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, they're giving, at least with like the Mass Effect studio BioWare, I think they're giving a little bit more leniency now. Respawn Entertainment with Apex Legends and with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, different games like that have been able to have some flexibility there. So I think EA as a company is moving toward more flexibility to the studios, but the deadlines are still going to be pretty hard coming out of them, I have a feeling. Over to Devolver Digital, one of the most popular, let's say, cult classic style publishers out there. They're considering going public on the London Stock Exchange. They're looking to pull an initial estimate valuation of somewhere around $1.4 million. I think this would probably be a decent move by Devolver. Again, one of those publishers that is not one of the biggest publishers out there, but is a popular publisher. It has a pretty decent following. It's connected to tons of different development studios. One way that we're looking at a lot of these companies who maybe are making money, but are looking to make more money. We talked about Discord earlier in the year, not necessarily a publisher, but someone in the gaming space looking to find a way of hiring their valuation. Devolver Digital could do the same thing here, listing on the London Stock Exchange. Whether it's a good move or not, I think that's open for debate. Going public does open you up to kind of shareholder criticism. We saw it again. I already mentioned CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk, but a lot of the reason that game was released when it was due to pressure coming from those stakeholders involved in CD Projekt Red's board. So when you look at advisory boards, when you look at stock exchanges, whoever has more hands on the equity of the company overall are going to force your hand in certain situations that you might not want your hand forced. So while you do raise your valuation, while you can potentially bring in a ton of money, there are pros and cons to going public. So we'll see what Devolver Digital does, but at least right now it looks like they are looking at a possibility of going public on the London Stock Exchange. Sliding on down, Focus Home Interactive has raised 70 million euros and plans to use the money on new studio acquisitions, among other development costs. Again, not too much to touch on here, just kind of giving you guys an idea of where the industry is right now. At one point, we had Amazon and Google come in, and everyone's feeling threatened because they're giant tech companies, and they're going to spend a lot of money, and then Google practically killed off Stadia, and now it's selling off its first-party IPs, and Amazon is doing questionable things with some of their IPs, and Crucible got released, and then pulled back into beta 2 weeks later, and now New World got delayed, and it might come out in the fall, but it might have microtransactions with certain things that are questionable. So Amazon and Google did not end up being those big party players, potentially at least yet, that a lot of people were expecting them to be. Instead, you're seeing stuff like Tencent become even more powerful. You have stuff like Focus Home Interactive that is getting 70 million euros to spend on more acquisitions. Embracer Group has made a ton this year. Speaking of Embracer Group, that's the next one to hit on here. They've made a considerable amount of studio acquisitions so far this year. It's been a big year for them as far as acquisitions. They're going to keep buying more, guys. They're in talks with 150 companies right now. 150 companies to potentially acquire them. The company is in late stage talks with 20 of those so far as well. John, we've talked about downsizing of the industry. It feels like that is the trend right now for video games as we see more bigger name publishers picking up these smaller development studios across the industry.
Yeah, it's the industry is in a really weird place because the demand for games, the demand for entertainment is probably at an all-time high, skyrocketing like crazy. But at the same time, it's an industry where, like you said, Joey, the trend is to downsize. So we're in a really weird position where it's like they're going to continue to demand more from less people. And like that's one of the big things with the video game industry is that whole burnout that we hear about from time to time, especially when it gets close to deadlines. I would like to hope that the downsizing doesn't continue because obviously the bigger your staff is, the more items and games you can develop, work on, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I think it's a very interesting situation there, and seeing more companies come out and acquire studios is always an interesting trend as well in the current situation.
It's interesting. Like, I'm kind of mixed on it overall. I think in one way, when you have these publishers, whether it be Microsoft or Sony or Tencent or whoever, goes in and buys these studios, the upside being now the studio could have more creative freedom. They could have a ton more funding. Maybe they have more flexible deadlines. At least that's what we're seeing with some of the Microsoft and Sony acquisitions. Tencent is usually pretty safe in that area as well. But then on the other hand, you do have stuff like we've seen in the past where EA has forced different development studios to use a particular engine or to meet maybe a bit of stricter deadlines with companies going public. It's kind of the same thing we've seen before. So my biggest thing is I love the idea of more creative freedom. I love the idea of more money to these smaller development studios. But at the same point, as you start to limit it, someone like a Sony, for example, if they go out and acquire a studio, maybe I used to play their game on PC or Xbox. Now I might not necessarily be able to play it there anymore. And same goes for Xbox, like with Bethesda. You used to be able to play these Bethesda games on Sony's platform. Now with that acquisition, a lot of these games are probably going to go Xbox exclusive. Now that doesn't mean just on the console, because you have PC and you have mobile, so it's a little bit more open than with the PlayStation deal. But at the same point, you're limiting the audience of these particular games, these titles, these IPs. So, again, pros and cons for me. I like it in some ways, and I don't like it in some other ways. It just kind of depends how it shakes out and how small we end up getting here. This next one's interesting. I know you have some mixed feelings on the newest trilogy that came out for Star Wars. J.J. Abrams, one of the director of 2 of those films, also has Bad Robot under his umbrella. They have raised $40 million and are now eyeing on taking a jump from movies and television and also expanding into gaming. They're looking at a AAA $40 million title here to go ahead and build. I'm personally a fan of Abrams. Now, again, I have my issues here and there with some of the newest Star Wars movies, but overall I like the way he does with storytelling most of the time with a lot of his different films out there and a lot of the different shows he's been involved with, and I love the idea to see how he can maybe translate that into a video game cinematic story.
Yeah, I agree. I think his ability to tell a story and really get the best out of the actors on the big screen is good. We won't talk about the recent trilogy for Star Wars because it's a family-friendly show. I think him moving into video games, I think he has a great ability or a great chance to tell stories in a different, unique, interactive way. And I think it will work for him. I think if he creates his own story, his own game that he has sole control over, I think that's part of the reason why the recent Star Wars trilogy wasn't so great. But if he has full control over the story, how everything gets told, the directing of the game and everything else too, I think there's a great chance that this is a huge success. I like JJ just like you do, Joey. I think he's great at what he does. I don't think Star Wars was his best foot forward, but I think him moving into developing a video game here under Bad Robot, I think is going to be a very good thing. And if he's able to translate that story like he does on the silver screen to the digital world of video games, then I think it could be a massive, massive success.
Absolutely. And I'm curious as well, like with this being money raised, I think one way people can look at this is maybe it's a Star Wars game being licensed out there from Lucasfilm Games. But I think with them raising money and not having someone like a Disney or even like a bigger company like a Microsoft, or not that they're bigger, but in gaming bigger, PlayStation or Microsoft or Tencent end up funding it, I feel like this is going to be a new original IP coming out from them as well. Over to a little bit of Tencent, John. This one is super intriguing to me. Tencent's Timmy Studio, known for Honor of Kings, one of the most popular mobile games throughout the world. Call of Duty Mobile, also very high up there. And then the in-development Pokemon Unite has formed an in-depth strategic partnership with Xbox Game Studios. At the moment, we know very little about this. We have no idea what this deal is. It could really be anything, but I think a lot of the speculation so far is that it will be a mobile game based on the studio's titles so far. Again, Honor of Kings, Call of Duty, Pokemon Unite. It feels like it's trending toward kind of like a mobile game-based type of game. With that being said, do you think we see a mobile game come out of Xbox and Timmy? Maybe something like Halo Mobile?
Sure, why not? Who doesn't love a good mobile game? It's again, it's very ironic coming from me, right? Chances are it will be a mobile game. Chances are, if Xbox is looking to really expand their footprint they should totally make a Halo mobile game. I think that would be stupid not to do. I mean, you would not get the same backlash that, Blizzard got for, Diablo. I think the fact that people are hungry for more Halo content, you put it on a mobile phone. Mobile phone graphics are absolutely incredible nowadays. They are so, to put this into perspective for all of our Zoomers out there, your cell phone right now, the one you are holding in your hand, is more powerful than a home desktop computer in the early 90s. Let that sink in real quick. More powerful than a desktop computer in the early 1990s. Yes, I know. I understand that was like 30 years ago. But like, that's how far technology has gone, because you take a look at what computers were 30 years before the 1990s. We're talking about computers that took up an entire room the size of like literally your entire house. Go online and Google it. Like, that's how far technology has come. So your cell phone is an incredible, powerful machine. Developers and game studios have figured that out. And if you can put a Halo mobile game onto an iPhone, onto an Android, that is going to get people super hyped for it. And I think that's really the best move here. If Microsoft really is diving into mobile gaming, they would be absolutely out of their freaking mind if they did not make a Halo mobile game.
I think this has got to be a Halo mobile game as well. Like, just based on the titles we've seen before, something like a Call of Duty mobile has absolutely popped off, not only in North America, but it's super popular over there in Southeast Asia as well. What is Microsoft trying to do? Well, one, you're trying to expand the Halo IP. This is a great way of doing that. You also build off of that infinite hype that you currently have building up as well. And then on top of that, what's another way to get into Asia, where they're trying to expand their sales of Game Pass and xCloud and all this good stuff and try to sell more Xbox consoles? Halo, you pull them into that, then they maybe get Master Chief Collection on PC, or they buy into Halo Infinite or whatever, and maybe they just go from that to playing xCloud on their devices. It would be a brilliant move in my opinion, and I think it would be a very, very strong move for Microsoft. And Tencent, we've already seen that they know how to get the job done. Timmy being known for all these very popular mobile games right now, why not partner with the best and go for what they do? Don't partner with them and say, hey, can you guys make a console game for us? Because they're not known for console games. They're known for these mobile games. And that's why a partnership like this comes into place to begin with. I personally think it's Halo, but again, we're not 100% sure at this point. We'll keep an eye on it and let you guys know as we go, but I would expect some kind of Halo mobile game in the future.
Yeah, if it's not Halo, you are stupid, Microsoft. You are absolutely stupid.
I agree. Like, I mean, you could go with the Gears IP. Sure, it's decently popular out there, but Gears Pop, it's already discontinued. I mean, it was Pop, but that's one thing. You take this super mature audience and you give them a Pop toy game. Like, I don't know where that thinking came from to begin with, but I'm hoping this is Halo Mobile. We'll see what ends up coming from it.
You tell me you didn't play that one?
I did play it.
Oh my God, did you really?
I did. I played it a decent amount. I got to the top, like, 5,000 players or something like that.
Wait, it had 5,000 players?
I had a lot of players at one point. Like, on launch, it did quite well. But then it just kind of died off later on because the balance changes were terrible, first of all. I'm not going to dive too much into this. But the way they would balance things, they would just completely nerf, like, half your collection. And it's like, well, how do I even recover from that? I've just invested so many resources. So at that point, I was just, no, I'm gone. But speaking of investing resources, the last one on today's task list here, I guess, Tencent. They have acquired a 3.8% stake in Remedy Entertainment. That's known for Alan Wake, Control, which was the game of the year just a couple years ago, etc. They're very well known throughout the industry. Crossfire X is coming to Xbox soon. That's very popular in Asia, now making its way over here to North America. In the end, Tencent has invested in or acquired more than 50 game-related companies so far in 2020 alone, John. 2020 alone, over 50 companies they have acquired or invested in, and we're only in May. We're not even halfway through the year. So, guys, what does that average out to? Well, as of last Thursday, when I initially pulled this news, that averaged out to 2.5 days in acquisition or investment. Tencent is insane right now. And people are just Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo and da-da-da. Tencent is literally investing all over the industry. 2.5 days. Every 2.5 days, they're making some kind of acquisition or investment in gaming-related companies.
Hey, Joey, I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm gonna put it out into the universe and see what happens. Hey, Tencent, I know this really cool multimedia company here based in Northern Virginia. They got some really cool podcasts. They do some shoutcasting here and there for some pretty big organizations. You know, if you don't have anything to do in 2.5 days, go ahead and give us a ring. You know, why not? We'll throw it out there. We'll see what happens. Maybe they invest like 20% or something, planting those seeds to see what happens.
I mean, is that not insane to you?
It's
Like,
nuts.
that is just crazy to me. Like, 50 companies is huge, but then thinking 2.5 days and we're in May. Every 2.5 days, they've made some kind of investment or acquisition. They are just, people are sleeping on Tencent. Like, this company is giant. People are concerned about Amazon and Google and Microsoft and Sony and all these other companies. Tencent is the one making the most moves out there right now by far. Sticking with Tencent, but taking a little bit of a transition from their acquisitions to some of the products they're going to be putting out, guys. They've begun to promote their Start cloud gaming platform. So the cloud gaming platform is called Start. Go figure. They're starting their way into cloud gaming. It's going to be for PC, mobile, and TV, and it's going to be able to play games from WePlay, which is kind of like Tencent's Steam platform in a sense, their PC launcher. They announced that this past week, and they showed it on stage at an event. On top of that, they already own a second cloud platform as well, and that is Zanayu, which primarily focuses on mobile games. So if you're a mobile gamer, they got a platform for you. If you're someone who's a PC gamer that wants to play some of those PC-based games on mobile devices or on TVs, now that's an ability as well with this new Start cloud gaming platform. I don't know if this is available outside of China. Maybe it's available in parts of Asia. I haven't heard anything of it over here in North America as of yet. But again, Tencent continuing to lay those roots, continuing to expand. Last but not least on this part, Tencent has shown off the design of a new interchangeable controller as well. It's going to allow players to change control schemes and layouts based on the games you are playing. So think of like a... I'm trying to think of what controller would be best to compare it to. Maybe like a Super Nintendo controller. I don't know if you want to pull one of those up for chat, John. It might be a little bit before their time in a sense, but it's kind of like a circular controller. It's got a little bit of like an oval shape to it. Tencent has created this thing where you can kind of pop out the oval part. So maybe you end up with your analog sticks right across from each other like a PlayStation controller, and you want to switch to something that's a little offset like an Xbox controller. You'll just pop it out and switch it in. Maybe you're playing a fighting game and you don't even want an analog stick to begin with. You just want a directional pad. There might be a pop-in for that as well. So a lot of this is going to be these different like controller faces that you're going to be able to pop in here and there. Again, Tencent being heavily involved in something like we see already with the mobile game market. What's the easiest way to jump into these other things and switch between console and mobile games and PC games? The ability to switch out the controller. You end up with this just one controller. You don't have to switch controllers completely. You just switch out kind of the faceplate of it, and it ends up switching all these things together. Again, Tencent making investments in companies, making investments in cloud, and now making investments in hardware that'll probably pay off for them as well.
Yeah, if you had LvLUp shows an image of Super Nintendo Entertainment System, aka Super NES, on your bingo card, go ahead and mark it off. Congratulations. Was not on my bingo card. But that was a nice turn of events there, Joey. Thank you.
We need a listener to make a bingo card for the live show.
For real.
I think that would be fun. Joey shills Xbox. Mark it off. John shouts about PlayStation. Mark it off. It could be lots of fun. If we mention Tencent, you might as well have that one on every week's card.
Free space.
Warner Brother Games, John. So Warner Brother, AT&T is in a lot of debt right now. They're not doing the greatest. They spent some money on investments. They bought like stuff like HBO. They jumped into Warner Brothers. They have all these investments that haven't quite panned out. We saw the same thing with Verizon, with like Yahoo and a couple other different services out there. So all these mobile carriers out there are now looking and saying, hey, we made these investments. They're incurring a lot of debt, and they're just not working out for us. So they're starting to make moves. They're starting to sell these things off or spin them off into different companies. This one in particular is going to see AT&T spin off Warner Media into a merger with Discovery. I don't know the new name of the company yet, but it's going to be Warner Discovery or something like that, I believe, where Discovery is going to have the majority share of Warner Media overall looking forward. So on the gaming side, because we're not going to touch too much on the TV side here, what does that mean for gamers? What does that mean for these 11 studios under that? We have no idea. At this point, we have a quote coming from Sarah Fisher of Axios. She talked to a company representative over there at AT&T and Discovery. They, in quote, some of the gaming arm will stay with AT&T and some will go with the new company. My guess to this means, John, Discovery is going to want to keep some of these game companies. AT&T is going to want to keep some of these game companies. But in the end, I think this allows them to sell them off differently. Maybe they sell all of them off and they just want half of the shares between both of them. Maybe they keep a couple. Maybe they sell them all off. I really don't know. But overall, I would not be surprised if we see some stuff like NetherRealm, for example. It's a fighting studio. A lot of different companies are looking for integrated fighting studios now. They come with the Mortal Kombat IP as well. That seems like a really good purchase for someone like a Microsoft, for example, looking to put more stuff on Game Pass, having a in-house fighting studio. Maybe you can even make your own Super Smash in a sense with all the different Xbox IP characters. That seems valuable. I can see them being valuable to Sony as well, who just bought Evo. Now you have this big fighting esport tournament. Maybe you make your own fighting game to put into it. I feel like there's a number of different studios. Rocksteady with Batman is also really strong, but again, they don't come with the IP. And that's one of the big cases with a lot of these. Like Harry Potter is also being worked on, but it wouldn't come with the IP either. So the studios are extremely talented, very little IP involved. So the inflation on them is saying, hey, we value these at whatever this high amount is. But then Microsoft's like, we just bought Bethesda for $7.1 billion, and they came with all of their IPs, all of their technology. This deal doesn't look quite as sweet, only coming with the studios and the talent.
It's like a wrong moment to take a drink. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they split them up. Will AT&T prioritize the big names, or will they just go for a complete sell-off? Will they try to double down and reinvest into the studios they keep, try to make a profit? There's a lot of question marks here. AT&T, just like some other companies out there, dove into games without really understanding them, and this is where we're at. They paid a premium at the time to acquire, and now they're going to be selling them off. They're still going to make money off of it, but they're selling them off for, I believe, a lot less than what they purchased them for. So there's a lot of bad decisions being made, and hopefully these studios aren't going to be too affected by it. The Warner Brother game studio, I mean, they're working on the Harry Potter game, right? Hogwarts Mysteries or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
That game is going to be infinitely delayed, it feels like, until this whole thing gets sorted out. And that's something that a lot of Harry Potter fans are looking forward to. And in an era where games are being delayed because of COVID, this one's being delayed because of selling and mergers and acquisitions and all other fun stuff. So it's interesting. But I think the big issue here is just all the question marks we have about what this actually means for these studios. Because, like you said, Joey, a lot of these studios have put out massive names in the recent times and in the past. And now, kind of their existence is kind of up in the air until this merger deal is figured out.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely one to look forward to. And again, the merger doesn't complete until mid 2022, late 2022. It does take time for these big companies to end up, whether it be a sell-off, whether it be a merge, it still takes a lot of time to get all the legal stuff in line. So even if we do end up seeing these sold, it could be later down the line as well. If they sell as individual studios, it could go a little bit quicker depending on what is involved in the Discovery deal and what is not. For the stuff that AT&T is keeping, that might be able to be sold off a little bit earlier. So we'll keep an eye on that and report back as we know. But again, this is about 11 studios being moved around here, whether they stay with AT&T, go to Discovery, or eventually get sold off to another third party. There's a lot of talent involved here in the gaming industry. Sliding down, Dolby Vision is headed to Xbox Series X and S consoles. It has begun to roll out to insiders already and will eventually become the first consoles to have Dolby Vision. John, this is something us as PC gamers have had for a while. It's very vibrant colors, the ability to see shades in different colors that you might not necessarily see in a game. And it kind of allows developers to tap into those colors a little bit at a higher level, rather, in a larger scale in general of these colorations. I think this is a win. I wouldn't be surprised if we eventually see it go to PlayStation consoles and Nintendo Switch as well. But with Microsoft owning Dolby, with Microsoft integrating further with PC as well, it seems like it makes sense that they are the first consoles to get that. And it'll be a big win paired up with Dolby Atmos.
Yeah, Dolby Vision is absolutely incredible. It literally takes your 4K display and makes it even better. If that wasn't possible already, it feels like 4K is just an absolute beast. 8K, yeah, I feel like 8K is more of a meme than anything right now because so little products actually are capable of running 8K. And even if it is able to run 8K, guess what? There's no content out there that has 8K. So, Dolby Vision is great. You team it up with Dolby Atmos, and it is such an amazing experience. Trust me, if you have a smart TV and you have Dolby Atmos also, go to Netflix, check out some of their Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos movies and watch it. It is such an experience. Now imagine that for a video game. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Very cool stuff. So again, Xbox Series X and S, the first consoles to get that. We'll see if it goes to more later down the road, but that has begun rolling out to insiders as of last week. So I would expect it to be on more people's consoles, probably closer to E3 time in early June, but everyone should be getting it soon enough. Over to Nintendo and Amiibos. Nintendo is launching a new Amiibo, Zelda and Loftwing, on July 16th. So why are we talking about Amiibos? We usually don't talk about stuff like this. Well, John, Nintendo, doing their crafty thing, has decided to find another way of pissing off some players here and there. While they still sell a ton of Switches, still sell a ton of games, they still do questionable decisions here and there, and this is one of those. You can gain the ability to fast travel between the surface in the sky in The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD by buying this figurine. So that particular giant quality of life change, the ability to fast travel in games, which you as a WoW player can tell us how effective that can be in games, now is locked behind the purchase of this particular figurine.
Joey, how many cuss words am I allowed to say before we have to put up an age restriction on Twitch? Like, just out of curiosity. Look, as someone who has played WoW for years, decades, maybe even, the idea of putting fast travel behind a paywall is corporate greed to the T. That is the prime example of what is wrong with corporations and their greed. It's so annoying. You're going to create an open world that people are going to spend their time, parts of their life playing your game. And in some cases, a game that they will play for years and decades playing this game. And you're going to have them travel all over a world, do all of these quests, send them to the farthest corners, and then have the absolute audacity, the balls, to charge them in real life money or make them purchase a product to fast travel. No. Just no. Shame on you and any other corporation. Shame on the idiot who came up with this idea, because he probably got a raise saying, oh, I know a great way to make a quick buck. Because you know what? The Nintendo and the person who came up with this did have one thing in mind. Yes, people do not like to have to walk or ride a mount for a half an hour. You're 100% correct. All the time I spent in the Barrens in World of Warcraft before the Cataclysm came, that zone was absolutely horrific. It took like an hour to get from the North Barrens to the South Barrens. And you know what? You're darn right. I paid in-game currency to use the flight pass and fast travel using my Hearthstone. But if you were to sit there and tell me I had to pay $19.99 to buy this stupid figurine that unlocks quick travel, you are out of your flipping mind, and shame on you. I hope you enjoy your pay raise, because that raise is going to be on the frustration of a ton of consumers. And consumers, if you even want to buy this damn figurine, shame on you for giving into it. The only way that these corporations are going to understand this is a terrible idea is through social media outrage and people not doing it. You buy the damn thing, you set them up for success, and they're going to do it again, and they're going to expand it even more. It just ticks me off. Do not lock it behind a paywall. It's the dumbest thing ever.
It just seems like a really bad move all around. For me, like, I've never been big into the Amiibo type of market. And I feel like if you're going to use them, like, buy the figure for being the figure and maybe get something small with it. Maybe it's a cosmetic, a different outfit, a different skin for a sword or armor or whatever. I'm fine with that. It doesn't change the balance of the game. It doesn't, maybe you could even throw in a different weapon because it's not a multiplayer game. Maybe you unlock a weapon with that Amiibo, but a giant quality of life change like fast travel seems way too much to lock behind a figurine. It feels very much like a money grab. Just like you said, John, not a fan of this move at all from Nintendo.
Shame.
Absolutely lame. Jumping over to E3, though, this one's exciting. Just to hit on a couple new updates there. This year's E3 will be accompanied by an online portal/app, depending if you're on your PC or mobile device, that will function as a central hub for scheduling and interactions. For those who've gone to conventions before, this is pretty similar to what you're used to. The only difference being with this being an all-virtual event. Alongside the main broadcast, they'll be held on Twitch, YouTube, and many other streaming services. The app will house hosted events, virtual booths, forums, and more with interactive overlays. I think there's some kind of scoreboard system involved, probably a way to connect into demos as well. All that good stuff, all housed within this app. Last but not least, just to reconfirm, registration will be free. At one point, they are toying around different membership levels. It will be free at this point in time.
Good. It should be free.
Okay, guys, we're going a little bit long here. We got a couple more things to cover. Some Overwatch 2 PvP stream. We're going to dive into a little bit of that. We're going to talk about a couple things to look forward to that just dropped in games, as well as what is up and coming. Touch on a few esport things just briefly, and then wrap up today's episode. Again, guys, going a little bit longer than usual because we haven't recorded the last couple days due to the DMV Spring Summit, the end of that Triple Crown. Lots of events, and Jon and I ended up casting, and we wanted to rest our voices a bit as well as prepare for those events. So we had to shift our schedule around just a tad bit. With that being said, Jon, I think it's time. Let's hop into the Overwatch 2 PvP stream. There are a number of things that came out of this. We saw new looks of heroes. We saw new maps. We saw a few game changes as well as some balance changes here and there. Let's hit on the biggest one first, and that is teams of 5. Overwatch is moving from 6v6 to 5v5. I would say you're getting mixed reactions on Twitter and Reddit and all these other places. But overall, people tend to trend toward not liking it as much as a lot of people would have expected.
So, look, I get it. A lot of people have an issue with how Overwatch is being handled. A lot of people don't like the current state of the game. I think those are all legitimate complaints and concerns. My issue is I don't necessarily hate the change to 5v5. I hate the reason behind the change to 5v5. And this is where communication is key, where choosing your words is very important. And I feel like I had the same reaction as a lot of people who were watching the stream had, which is, okay, cool. They wanted to change the game up a little bit. They wanted to kind of make it fresh, and they're going to change the comp. They're going to make it 1 tank, 2 DPS, and 2 support. Okay, cool. Awesome. Great. If you're a support player, guess what? Your life just got a whole lot easier. If you're a DPS player, your life got a little bit more complicated because there's less of a shield for you to hide behind. It's going to be a little more tunneled and everything. And if you're a tank, congratulations, your role has been cut in half. And the reason that they used, and this is my biggest issue, the reason is essentially because they said tanks make too big of an impact in the game. And yes, while I do agree, tanks can control the game quite a bit. It's a very strong and powerful role. That can't be the main reason. You can't sit here and say, 2 tanks is just too strong. 2 tanks is just too OP. Especially when like Overwatch was created as this game of choice. It's this game that, you had the freedom to play the comp the way you wanted to play it with your team. And the idea, like pre-roll lock and everything else too, is you pick 6 characters. And that's what you went to war with. If you wanted to do, 1 tank, 3 DPS, 2 heals, fine, do that. If you wanted to do all support, fine, do it. You want to do all off tanks, fine, do that. But to me, Joey, my big concern, one, is now I know why Overwatch 2 is taking forever, is because they're gonna have to completely re-kit most of these heroes. The off tanks are currently not positioned well to survive in Overwatch 2. It's just plain and simple. The characters that are considered main tanks, they're going to get buffed because their current positioning in Overwatch is not going to translate well to being a single tank operation. DPS, we're seeing them get changes. I'm not too happy about the May change. But the whole thing is everything has to get redone because they're going from this idea of 6v6 to 5v5. I don't hate the idea. I like that it's going to make the game feel new. It's going to be a new strategy. It's going to be a new play style. But at the same time, it's like I feel like they didn't do a great job at presenting that vision, and they just kind of left it to a very bad soundbite that a lot of the community is upset about.
I'm super mixed on this change. I like certain parts of it and I hate other parts of it. I think from you and I who've casted Overwatch before and who currently co-stream for the Washington Justice, from a spectator perspective, the biggest issue with Overwatch, and when they've done it on ESPN, when they did it on Disney before, a lot of people have trouble following the game. There's so much going on. There's so many vibrant colors. The perspective is constantly changing. So cutting out one of those players, while it doesn't make it infinitely easier, it does make it somewhat easier to track. Each team has one tank. It's so much easier to explain that to your parents, to an older person trying to get into esports, just someone in general who wants to have a better idea of this esport title. It's a lot easier to say, hey, look, there's one tank. Players are going to play around that tank, whether it's the healer laying down heals for them, whether it's people staying behind them. It's a lot easier to explain that than saying, hey, there's two tanks. One could be flanking. One could be this way. And it makes it a lot more complicated just from a strategic standpoint as well as a spectator standpoint. So from that perspective, I love it. My issue is now you have all these people coming out, and whether they're just saying it to say it or whether they actually mean it, you have all of these people who are in this community who have built themselves around six-man squads. So now you're saying, okay, the six-man squad who's played together since launch, they've supported your game this full time, and yes, we know Overwatch wants to make the game better for them, and we understand that, but you're going to say, like, okay, so what about that one friend? Where do they go now? That off-tank position is no longer there. And I think that's the biggest issue a lot of people are having, is they're used to playing in six-man, maybe because they're comfortable with the composition, but also because Let me know when I'm back.
You're back. Sorry, I'm also trying to get these bots out of here, out of the chat also. You're back. Sorry about that. Yeah, it was a froze.
Am I back now?
Yeah,
okay,
you're
cool.
back. You're back.
Okay, cool. Can you help over in chat here? Because we could become famous tonight, guys. Everyone posting links in chat. What up, fam? Welcome to the stream. You can also find our podcast feed as well if you want to listen and ask them about becoming famous as well. You're welcome to. But yeah, so Overwatch, my biggest thing, I think you did hear about the competitive spectator stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So that's my biggest issue, or biggest really pro to making this change, rather. On the issue side is the thing with the friends. You have a lot of these groups that played with six-man groups. Now you don't have that ability necessarily to play with that six-man, and I think that could be an issue for some of these friend groups out there. We'll see what ends up happening in the end. As these changes do come through, again, as you said, John, tanks are going to be buffed. They're going to have to be a little bit healthier. They're going to have some more power behind them. And now as one tank and losing kind of that off tank that typically brought a little bit more damage to the table. Supports, on the other hand, I almost feel like you need to nerf their healing abilities but increase their health, because they're not going to have as much peel now that you get rid of one of the tanks. But at the same point, now you have two supports that could focus heavily on one tank. You don't want that tank to live forever, so you have to find a way of making some changes there as well. On the DPS side, I think that's probably where you see I'm going to say maybe the lowest of moves. Part of it is maybe you reduce damage overall because, again, you're hitting on one tank, but you also have two supports that are going to be focusing that tank here and there now. So it's going to be tough for the balance team. And I think, like you said, John, this is one of the reasons we keep seeing this game kind of push back farther from what people expected. Yeah, part of it is introducing new heroes. Part of it is doing these new maps. Part of it is all the PvE aspects being added in to build upon the story. But a lot of it is these balance changes as well with PvP, just because this move, taking out a whole character slot, is going to end up completely changing the way the meta works, especially with role lock still being a thing, because they are going to lock it where it's two supports, two DPS, and one tank. So that will still be a major factor moving forward for the PvP scene.
Yeah, and we're already seeing some of those other changes, teased a little bit here on this update. Healers are going to have a passive. Like, each class is going to have a passive. The healers will gain back their health after being out of combat for a certain amount of time. And we're not talking like slowly get their health back. We're talking like it ticks up from the video at a pretty good rate. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on there if you're a healer. So that might have to be, that might be something to take a look at, for more changes here for the support role. Too, for the tanks, you're 100% correct, Joey. Like, the whole thing is going to have to be reworked. Like, what are you going to do with D.Va? Are you going to keep D.Va as a tank? Or are you going to keep D.Va, are you going to move D.Va to a DPS role and kind of make her less tanky? There's so many questions here that this stream didn't answer. And I think that's why a lot of the community is kind of panicky about it, is because people left with more questions than answers for Overwatch 2. And I feel like the Overwatch team tried to, I'm not going to say try to hide it, but try to kind of like pull it like a blanket over it a little bit by saying, oh, look at these cool maps that we're going to bring out also because everyone loves new maps. But we're taking, they touched on things like, crowd control. That's going to have a massive change. If you're a Mei player, guess what? You're not freezing anybody anymore unless it's in your ultimate. Some people like that. Joey, put your hands down. So now it just slows you. And they said, yeah, it slows the champion, but also her damage is buffed. So we'll see changes like that. I expect healers to have a big change also right behind tanks. Because you're right, Joey. 2 healers healing a tank, it just seems a little too OP. And then here's my other issue with what the developers said here. They said, after a big fight, tank players usually felt like they were in a bad place. And if they didn't have healers that could support them through a fight, then they usually died. Yes, you're 100% correct. As a support player, I think that was one of our challenging options or tasks, if you will, is finding ways to keep those 2 tank players up during major team fights. You take that challenge away now. And yeah, they go, oh, well, the tank is going to feel a lot better in this new position because the healers can focus on them. Well, duh, it's 2 healers not trying to split themselves up between 2 tanks and the DPS. It's now, focus 1 tank and we can kind of go here and there for the DPS also. To sit here and say tanks are going to have a better feel after team fights now because it's 2 healers focusing on 1 tank. Yeah, of course it is. Of course the tank is going to feel better. I just feel like I need more answers before I can make a good enough judgment. I can understand why people are upset. I think if Blizzard is smart, they take those comments into consideration, and maybe their next developer update, they give more answers instead of providing more question marks for the community.
Absolutely. And I think that's going to be the biggest question mark here in general, is just trying to figure that out exactly. What does that mean for the community? What does it mean going from 6 down to 5 players? How is that going to translate for these parties of 6 people? How does that translate meta-wise? And again, I feel like, yeah, we're talking about them tiptoeing a bit here and there, but I feel like one of the main reasons for that is they just don't know at this point. Like, they're still trying to balance all these things. They talked about how they're still working through these balance changes, how the developer is still actively trying out different things. They're trying new game modes. We heard about Push, and that one looks cool. We got a new little robot friend jumping in, not even an Omnic, something a little bit different. But on top of that, they're trying these other game modes. Some have worked out, some not as much. Some they're super excited for. We don't know what they look like yet. And then again, it comes to the whole balance thing. All these new maps being built. Do the old maps work well with 5v5? Do they have to rework some things? Now these new maps, they said, New York City was one today. I think Rome came out. Rio was another one. And then they ended with Monte Carlo, which is absolutely gorgeous. The maps look great. The maps look fantastic. I'm excited to go dive onto these maps. With that being said, I think the 5v5 is a thing a lot of people looked at. The maps look great. They always look great for Overwatch. The 5v5 change, some people love. I think from an esports perspective, it is a big question mark when it comes to rosters and how that's going to shake out. But as far as spectators, it makes it a lot easier to watch as an esport. Now, the biggest thing being, what about those groups of friends? What about those people who have supported your game for so long? Do they stick with Overwatch? Do they change up the way their group works? What do they end up doing in those situations? Is 6v6 maybe added as an available quick play option in Overwatch 2? That, to me, is the biggest question, and I don't feel like the developers 100% had an answer to that yet as well.
I kind of wish they didn't drop the 5v5 bomb on us during this update.
I feel like people would have been mad if they held it back, though, and they knew the whole time.
Well, but here, one, we would never know that, because that would be kept internal. Yeah, there may be a leak here or there, but what haven't we heard about Overwatch 2? I think it's one of those things where it's we knew they were trying different things out. It wouldn't have surprised anybody if it was leaked that they're looking at different, number of players on teams. I don't think that would have surprised anybody. I just think that if you are going to come out and say, yes, Overwatch 2 is going to be 5v5, I feel like the game plan needs to be a lot better than how they executed it. And I think the way they executed the announcement is the reason why the community is so upset. It's because it didn't really give a good enough answer other than tanks too strong, tanks OP, tanks dictate fight. I mean, I feel like you just said, oh, yeah, well, 2 comes after 1 and 3 comes after 2. Like, it just feels like you're stating the obvious. I just don't feel like it was a good enough explanation as to why you're making that 5v5 switch. And I think it was Super that joined the stream also. He was kind of taken back as a tank player, sitting there going like, oh, which one, his reaction told me they didn't know either until that developer stream, which I think that'll be a conversation off stream. I think if the players didn't know about that and that was dropped on them, I think you're going to see a lot of players have reactions that may not be publicly put out front, but that 5v5 announcement literally just cost players their jobs. So I just think if you're going to do that, it needs to be done better. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely something we're going to have to keep an eye on as we go forward and as balance changes continue to go through. Like, I'm almost starting to wonder if they eventually go full WoW and they just say, we're going to do 3 DPS, 1 support, and 1 tank, and just go for the full WoW dungeon system. But who knows? At least for right now, it looks like it's going to be 1 tank moving forward. You're still going to have the 2 supports, 2 DPS. They're trying to balance around it. That's probably part of the reason Overwatch 2 is taking so much time. One thing that we can look forward to is the drop of content. We know at least 4 new maps are coming. We know a number of new heroes will drop as well. I'm sure there's going to be a slew of new cosmetics that come out too. The PvE stuff getting added in. So there's a lot of great content for those that want to jump more into the lore of Overwatch, that want a little bit of a fresher take on the PvP. Again, the new maps, new characters can really provide a lot of that up front. Even without the 5v5 change put into effect, the maps and other things alone can do that. The 5v5 really shaking things up because that's also going to make these maps you've been playing for so long fresh because now you have a completely different perspective. So we'll keep an eye on it. I think Overwatch will give more updates probably throughout the summer as well, but we'll have to see what else they have planned and what else they'll announce as we go on. Sliding into a few game updates that happened recently, just to give you a heads up, then we're going to touch on some upcoming and rotate into that last bit of esports. Upcoming, or currently, I guess, moving on, Rogue Company just dropped Season 2. You have a new character, Mac, coming out. He has this pretty sick light bomb. Awesome stuff there. New map, a new King of the Hill mode, new battle pass, and all that good stuff coming to Rogue Company. One of those up-and-coming games that has continued to build up player numbers over the past year and has continued to surpass a lot of people's expectations. Over to Gears 5, it is starting to wind down a little bit. They just dropped the first chunk of Operation 7. It's got 2 new characters, a new premium map in Afira, a major overhaul to the rank system, switching to a competitive leaderboard system. They've added in the XP availability to start building up XP in custom matches, as well as all these fun little mutators like Big Head mode and all that good stuff you saw in GoldenEye 64. All of that fun stuff being added in too. So some nice quality of life changes, some nice changes overall coming in for Gears of War and Rogue Company. Definitely check out those new updates. Both of them are live as of now. For some upcoming stuff, JRPG fans, the Scarlet Nexus demo is now available for download. That one is playable on Xbox consoles at the moment, and then it'll come to PlayStation consoles next week. I believe today, next week, so next Thursday. On top of that, Game Pass made an announcement of some of their new games coming out as well. I didn't pull the list before the stream tonight, but go ahead and head over to xboxwire.com, and you can go ahead and check out all of those new games coming to Game Pass this week and next week. And last but not least, in terms of Game Pass, Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance is now coming to Game Pass day 1 when it launches in late June. A lot of people super stoked for this game. It's going to be one of those very interesting RPG-style games with that Dungeons & Dragons lore attached to it. Again, that one available Game Pass day 1, late June. Jeff Keighley in the Summer Game Fest, along with E3, one of the other big summer gaming showcases. You have a couple other ones that go rogue here, like EA is going to be in July. Jeff Keighley is going to do Summer Game Fest again. A little bit of mixed information on this one. I believe it's going to run about 4 weeks this year as opposed to like the 8 weeks or whatever it ran last year. It is going to have a kickoff event this time around instead of like a small showcase. This is going to be a bigger deal. It's going to be Thursday, June 10th. Go ahead and mark that on your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. Kickoff Live, it's going to be a live world premiere showcase, which will include a performance from Weezer, as well as showcase 25 to 30 different games at it, with 12 to 15 of those being premieres. We're looking at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, running about 2 hours on Thursday, June 10th. John and I might be co-streaming this one. We're not 100% sure on this as of yet, but we'll keep an eye out for that. If not, we're definitely going to have coverage either on LvLUp or through Discord or something like that. Watch party, whatever it ends up being, we'll be doing something for that day. It should be a fun day. Again, June 10th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Sliding into some esports, just to touch on a couple of these quickly, and then to dive a little bit further into a couple of them. Gears Esports E United is your spring major champion for those that follow that scene. Again, it's a little bit of a smaller one. The main reason it's included here is to congratulate E United as well as to talk about some upcoming changes. Gears Esports has been one of those scenes that has grown steadily over time, but has had its shaky moments here and there. They've typically been a one game mode scene, and the big reason we bring it up here is because they're now moving to 3 game modes. So instead of just escalation, they're going to include escalation, control, and execution 2.0 moving forward for that scene. That could be a big change for a smaller scene like this, now giving more variety to spectators and players. We'll see how it ends up, but just wanted to put it on your guys' radar there. Halo, Renegade JW won the $25,000 free-for-all 1v1 tournament hosted by Esports Arena in Vegas and Kellogg's as well. Vemzy and the Stellar finished rounding out that top 3, so big congratulations to Renegade JW. $25,000 is a nice tournament to win, especially in a 1v1. He can definitely say 1v1 me, bro, and bring it home with that money as well. Apex Legends, I like this one, John. I'm very excited for this. EA is looking to crowdfund the prize pool for the Apex Legends ALGS Championship with in-game bundle sales. Guys, if you're going to sell things in-game, why not promote your esports scene with it? Especially these smaller esports scenes, these battle royale titles that, yes, Fortnite is huge, yes, Apex is great, but the esports scenes struggle, and they don't really do that great outside of Booga getting some great interviews here and there. But overall, the scenes just outside of big events here and there, they don't really do too much. What's one way to increase that? And even for bigger titles like League of Legends, how do we get a bigger prize pool? You crowdfund things. I think this is a great move overall. They're expecting it to reach somewhere around $3 million.
Just Joey, it's EA. EA's doing this. Like, that's massive. That's huge. That's mind-blowing, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely massive. It's huge. What is it? Big to big. Yeah. I mean, I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I think it's another way for, now again, there's probably motivation here where EA is like, we don't want to sink more money into this title in this esports scene. But at the same point, this is a way for them to get some money through in-game purchases, but also find a way to promote those organizations involved in esports, promote those teams, those players, everyone involved in that scene, and help grow it as well concurrently. So it's a great move overall. And again, I hope we see more and more crowdfunding come to esports as well. NBA 2K, the Season 4 is underway for them. They've kicked off with a tip-off tournament that is currently ongoing. If you're interested in some NBA 2K action, go ahead and check that out. On top of that, John will be doing some commentary again for WizDG this year during the regular season. So we'll keep you updated on when he will be going live for that on, I believe, Monumental Sports Network, and maybe on their Twitch channel as well here and there. But John will keep you updated. So some cool stuff there for NBA 2K as well as John and WizDG.
Yeah, and just real quick, that tip-off tournament, day 1 is done. The results, it was group play. So you have Heat. The Heat Check Gaming, I believe, 3-1 took their group over Gen G and the Knicks. T-Wolves Gaming, 3-1 record as well, took their group over Warriors Gaming and Pacers Gaming. WizDG, the reigning champions, took their group 3-1 record as well over Hornets GC and Boston, which is going to be their week 1 matchup once the regular season rolls around. Boston's starting off bad, negative 41 point differential in 4 games. Not too good. And 76ers GC, who are absolute beasts in the tip-off tournament, won their group as well, 3-1 their record, taking down Orlando, which also had a 3-1 point differential come into play there, 30-point differential versus 16. And the Cavs, well, the days of LeBron James on that team and as their esports team doing well are long gone, 0-4 with a negative 46-point differential there. So a lot of cool stuff. Day 2 starts Friday, so if you are interested in 2K League, check it out.
Definitely keep an eye on that one. Again, Season 4 underway, kicking off with the tip-off. Over to Dota 2. This is one of the biggest esport events of the year, and it is back this year. Dota 2's the International 10 will run August 5th through the 15th in Stockholm, Sweden. Additionally, Valve will not be running a battle pass. That battle pass that typically pulls them in about $37 million where the prize pool money, or at least adds to that giant total that comes out at the end. They're switching it up this year, and they're offering a new supporters club initiative. For the sake of time, we're not going to dive too much into it, but it is a cool way to continue that crowdfunding, but also give a little bit more back to the community as well. Definitely worth checking out if you're a Dota 2 player. Sliding over to Valorant, Jay Sinatra 1 has been found in violation of Rule 8.1 of the Valorant Global Competition Policy and will be suspended for 6 months, March 10th, 2021. So it was a little bit retroactive there, and it will run until September 10th, 2021. Additionally, Sinatra is required to complete professional conduct training prior to returning to play. Okay, guys, so we talked about this a while back. His ex-girlfriend Cleo came out, and she ended up saying he was abusive in their relationship. A lot of different things went back and forth between the two on social media. In the end, the League of Riot Games and Valorant decided to look into this. They did not find necessarily too much involved with Sinatra to really support these charges, but he was a little bit hesitant in allowing them to really investigate certain areas that they felt like they needed to dive into. So we don't necessarily know if he was involved in this one way or another. If you ask me, I think he most likely was with these different sexual harassment charges that came out. Or rather, not charges, but accusations that came out, rather. So with the way Riot is moving forward, they're saying, hey, we didn't find enough evidence to move forward with like giving you some kind of like police investigation in this. We're not going to get rid of you completely from the league because there was not enough evidence there. At the same point, because he didn't fully allow them to search into everything that they felt they needed to, they are going to suspend him 6 months for it.
Yeah, he was streaming to 30,000 people today on Twitch. Personally, I think if you're going to be suspended from Valorant, I think Valorant Riot should step in and restrict your streaming as well. I think that's absolutely horrific that this guy is going to be suspended for not cooperating in a sexual assault investigation, but still be able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars by streaming their game on Twitch.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like this is almost uncharted territory in that sense. We really haven't seen someone as big as a Sinatra get into trouble like this so far. And esports still being as new as it is, like, yes, you had StarCraft back in the day, decades ago, but it was never on the size of the stage that it is now. With something like Valorant backed by Riot Games, who's absolutely insanely popular when it comes to esports, it's one of those areas that I feel like they're still kind of developing policies. I like the fact that they acted here. I feel like more investigation probably should have been done in the end. But if he's not going to cooperate, there's only so much you can do without getting more police involved. Maybe eventually they do, but at least for now, they have settled on that 6 month suspension. I'm glad something came out. I personally think there's probably more to investigate there. But again, as John said, the whole Twitch thing is another area that might need to be revisited later down the road. Sliding into Overwatch League, we just had Melee. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. It is returning to action again this week. We do have some hero pools and bans. Welcome back to the stage. You and I are not the biggest fan of hero bans, but they're here and we have to work around them as best we can, as will all the teams and organizations involved. We have Tracer, Sombra, Reinhardt, and Zenyatta being banned. A lot of these heroes being played in recent weeks. Reinhardt in particular is one of those biggest heroes really that you see played in Overwatch in general. Should definitely shake up the meta here and there for better or for worse, depending on how you look at it. But we'll take a look at that action ahead as we move into the next weekend. But again, you won't be seeing these heroes at the very least.
Remember how big Sombra was, that off-meta pick in the first several weeks of Overwatch League? Like, the people were flexing her in, and she was a massive team fight changer, and it was a lot of fun to watch. Gone. I don't get it. I will never understand this.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, but we'll have to see how it continues forward as we go. For now, we're going to slide over to League of Legends. And again, we'll bring you some more Overwatch League coverage as those matches happen this weekend. You can catch John and I as the official co-streamers for the Washington Justice. We'll be doing those streams on the Washington Justice YouTube channel on Saturday and Sunday this weekend. If you want to come check them out, say hi, drop in, and hang out, feel free to do so over there. Looking at MSI, our last bit to touch on, again, mega episode, cut out about 40 to 50 different things, but we still crammed a lot in here in this hour and a half, 90 minutes that you guys have listened to us. We do have that pause button for those listening on the podcast. Feel free to pause, take a lunch break here and there if you need to. It was a bit of a longer episode. Group A for MSI, we have Royal Never Give Up coming out of that group, as well as Pentanet.gg. John, you and I both comfortably took Royal Never Give Up out of that group, but I believe we both had Unicorns of Love. They do fall at 2 and 6, the tiebreaker going to Pentanet.gg. Over to Group B, we did pick both the winners out of this one. That was Mad Lions and PSG over there at 5-1 and 4-2. And then over in Group C, we had Damwon Gaming and Cloud9 making out of that one 5-1 and 4-2 respectively. From there, we headed on over to the Rumble stage, where there was a little bit of rumbling back and forth to go ahead and decide who would make it to the knockout stage. Coming out of the Rumble stage is Damwon Gaming in first at 8-2. Royal Never Give Up at 7-3 in that second place spot. PSG actually taking down the LEC champions of the spring split, 6-4, with Mad Lions falling to fourth at 5-5, but still qualifying. Something we can't say for our LCS hopefuls in Cloud9. They did fall to 3-7 and were eliminated, as well as Pentanet.gg, who fell at 1-9 as well.
But we did beat the defending world champions, so that's
you did. You beat the defending world champions, and then you lost to the team, giving them their only win of this particular stage in Pentanet.gg. So Cloud9, the best and the worst potentially, coming out here in the Rumble stage.
Joey, do me a favor. Just log off. Just go away.
There is a great moment, guys, on Discord where Jon...
Stop.
This was so perfect, though. Jon posted a Twitter link to a Cloud9 tweet that said, "Do you believe in miracles?" And it's talking about them taking down RNG Royal. And then he ends up posting Built Different. So, no. This was RNG that they took down. They took down RNG. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, fine. Whatever.
Yeah, so they took down RNG, and then Jon posted Built Different. So then the next match, C9 goes on to lose to potentially the worst team left in the tournament in Pentanet.gg, who, again, congratulations to Pentanet. You pulled off an awesome win here. But then I had to hit him back with the Built Different right after.
Toxic.
He was not happy. I was cracking up. Cloud9, I enjoy them as an organization. I think they're a great team. But when it comes to the LCS internationally, the league has continued to struggle here and there. Whether imports are the answer or not, Parks did not answer it this time around, at least. So we'll see if they bring up some more interesting things come Worlds when they do see a couple more seeds representing NA, and when Cloud9 has had a bit more time to cook in that oven and continue to build that talent up as well. So for now, moving into the knockout stage, we have Damwon Gaming, again, your defending world champions, your number 1 seed coming out of the Rumble stage, going up against Mad Lions in that number 4 spot, and then Royal Never Give Up, your highest contender in the group stage, coming out and going up against the number 3 seed of PSG Talon.
Two things.
Prediction time, good sir. Yes, what's that?
Two things I have for you real quick.
Please.
Number 1, Cloud9, the most successful North American team in Worlds ever. That is fact. Can back it up with
what does it mean to be successful as a North American team at Worlds?
Name one other North America team that made it to the Final Four in Worlds. You can't.
That exactly proved my point.
That's what I'm saying. You can't. So there you go. Perfect. Great organization. Number 2, Joey, how did fnatic do at MSI? Oh, wait. Oh, well, hold on a second. Mad Lions. I'm sorry. Mad Lions was your representative from the LEC, so I want to hear about it from you.
The LEC is
Prediction time, Joey.
The LEC wants to continue to build up rookies, so what's a better way than sending some rookies to a tournament like MSI? You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
No, seriously, I love Cloud9 as an organization. I think they're awesome in NA. They're one of the organizations I follow the most in general. But when it comes to North America competing at international events, it's been shaky for the LCS, regardless if they send TSM or Cloud9 or Team Liquid. I personally lean toward Cloud9 of those organizations, but none of them have really represented NA too well outside of a couple appearances here and there. Again, as Jon said, Cloud9 being the one who gets out of groups the most, being the one who's gotten the farthest, and going to the semifinals and eventually losing to fnatic. But overall, it is an org that has done quite well as far as NA competition at international games.
Joey, there's children listening, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Hey, children. Damwon Gaming up against Mad Lions. Speaking of children, this is a bunch of guys who just won a world championship up against some rookies who are still making their way. They struggled at Worlds last year, now back in an international event and going up against those defending world champions. I do not have the highest expectations for Mad Lions here. I believe this is, yes, it is a best of 5. So I'm going to go Damwon 3-1. I would not be surprised with a 3-0, but I think Mad Lions can make enough noise to pull off one game. So I'm 3-1 Damwon.
And Cloud9 would definitely take a game here. So I'm going to go 3-0 Damwon. Sorry.
I like it. 3-0 Damwon sounds good to me. And then we have Royal Never Give Up against PSG Talon. I'm going to stick with the 3-1 result here with Royal Never Give Up taking the win to set us up for an LCK LPL South Korea versus China final.
You want me to go first?
I already went. Did you hear me?
For Damwon and RNG? Or are we predicting that or no?
Oh, no. We're doing Royal Never Give Up PSG. Do you have a winner there?
No. I mean, it's RNG taking that. It's enough said. 3-1. Well, I'll give PSG a game. 3-1.
Okay, 3-1. So I'm taking 3-1 in both. Jon's going 3-0 for Damwon, 3-1 for Royal Never Give Up. Between them all, Jon, I think Damwon wins it. I would not be surprised 3-1. I want to say 3-2, though.
It'll be 3-1. Don't worry about it. It'll be 3-1.
You think 3-1?
Built
So
different.
RNG up against DM1 is 1-0 so far in the tournament.
Yep, it's fine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's good.
Fine. So you're going to go 3-1, DM1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like 3-1, DM1. I think
Good.
I'll stick with that too. I would not be surprised if Royal pushes them to a game 2, but I feel like with Koma coaching over there, he's going to find ways to work around them. Very smart coach overall. He's done great things with SKT for years. Now over there with DM1 as well. We'll see how it all shakes up. But again, some pretty exciting knockout stuff to come. I believe this takes place this weekend, if I remember correctly. So definitely take a look at that. Tune in, Overwatch League action, League of Legends action, all these summer gaming events coming up, demos to try, games to try with new operations coming to Gears of War and Rogue Company. So many good things happening in gaming and esports right now, as well as a lot of craziness like with the Apple versus Epic stuff, which we'll go ahead and wrap back around on next week. But for now, this has been a little bit of a longer episode, catching you guys up because we took some time off, a couple episodes off. It should be back to our normal time and all that goodness come next time.
All right, Nation, that will do it for this edition of LvLUp Live. Before you go, head over to patreon.com/OTN and consider becoming a part of the Overtime Network. In return, you'll get access to exclusive content that nobody else in the world can get unless they are part of OTN Media. If you have not already done so, make sure you are following the show here on Twitch to catch the next episode of LvLUp Live. If you listen to the show on our podcast feed, leave us a review. LvLUp Podcast is available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play. We would love to hear from you. In fact, we love to hear from our community so much. There are multiple ways for you to interact with us. Joey, what are some of those ways?
Absolutely. LvLUp Nation, head on over to Twitter and find us at LvLUp Live. That is LvLUp Live. In addition to that, you can follow the umbrella company OTN Media on Twitter and Facebook at OTN Media and on Instagram at OTN_media. Last but not least, hit us up with a follow, maybe even a Twitch Prime sub over here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/OTN Media. A number of streams throughout the week. We did some Mass Effect last week, some Fire Emblem, LvLUp as well. That Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Come hang out for the live show. It is a ton of fun.
All right, make sure you tune in this upcoming Monday, May 24th, as we cover the latest crazy gaming and esports news. Do your ears and eyes a favor. Hit that sub and follow button to know when the next episode of LvLUp Live is ready for your viewing pleasures. We'll catch you all on Monday. Have a great week, and remember, be nice to your fellow gamers online, and as always,
Level up.